Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Good day, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, the podcast where we talk about translating strategy into frontline operations. Today, my guest, Lisa Will. She is the founder and CEO of Stonz. And you've been in business since 2004. So math, what's that? 2004.
17 years. Yeah.
17 years in the making. I always ask, what's a quirky thing? What's something that we don't know about Lisa? Well, let's put the word out there. Lisa knows how to operate hand drill, power tools, and not the greatest cook. So don't go for dinner at her place unless it's takeout.
Exactly. We'll have fun, but yeah.
I show you how to run cable. I'll show you how to run the electrical work, but bring your own food because I'm not good at cooking.
Yeah. I know.
My wife and partner, she does fresh prep. Let's do a shout out for fresh prep because that saves our lives a whole bunch of times.
Oh, you can double down on that. I do as well. 4 days a week.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Lisa, what's the title of the show? What are we going to talk about today?
I'd like to talk about the myth of balance.
And the title will be?
Balance, WTF.
So for those people who are listening and not watching, behind Lisa, or just kind of top of her head, there's a big sign that says WTF, and there's small print that I can't read what it says underneath.
It says willing to fail. But you can interpret
the way that you want. So Lisa, tell us your story. So Lisa and I know each other from EO, right? Great organization across the world. So there's many people that I know through my stint at EO as well. So tell us your story, Lisa. How does it begin?
My story. So it seems like a long, long time ago now. I was an electricity and gas trader and marketer. And then I ended up having my first child in 2003.
Okay.
And as you know, in Canada, we get a year off. So I was spending a lot of time with a boy, a brand new little boy who was very much even active at that age, like just had this pent up energy and he couldn't sleep at home. So I was always out, running him in a stroller, walking him in a stroller. My girlfriends would come for an early morning walking session and then leave again. I'd be stuck there still outside. That's the only way he'd sleep. So I was outside a lot and really, really enjoyed it, because I'm not much of a being at home routine person. And what I found out as the weather turned, that there wasn't a lot to put on his feet, not like there is now, but there just wasn't a lot out there. So we ended up at a weekend at Whistler and I couldn't find anything up there either, like when I was carrying him in a backpack. So ended up putting scarves around his feet and just wrapping them, which didn't stay on, obviously. And ran into somebody who had, shrunken down this sort of slipper. And so we ended up saying, why don't we do this together? Because I had always wanted to start my own business. So we did. And that was back in 2004.
Okay. Yeah. And so then from then you started back in 2004. What happened next?
Yeah. It was just very much going to be a hobby business. That was the idea. So we ended up doing our first trade show in September of 2004. And we got a lot of interest from retailers. I thought that was interesting. Never had any experience in the retail world other than doing my own shopping. And as that grew, we expanded. So I went back to work, in March of 2004, and August of 2005 had another child, was a daughter, and then had another year off and went back in 2006, and then through 2007 worked, and then 2008 decided it was time, late 2007 to actually take this to another level. We'd won a few awards and I wanted to take it very, very seriously. And at that time, my partner wasn't really in that position. And it was like I really wanted this to be big. I had a big vision for what it could be. And the more things I put on my child, the more I realized that the goods that we were buying didn't really have as much quality as I'd wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
I had envisioned having this product, whatever I bought would last a long time and it
Mm-hmm.
would be passed on like everything else that we had when we were kids. And that wasn't happening. So I really wanted to have a brand and create a name that people just, it was synonymous with quality, premium. And you could, resell it. And at that time, there wasn't as much of a market as there is now
Oh,
in the
now it's
secondhand
huge.
market.
Eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's growing like 40 to 50% year on year. So it's really now on trend. I wanted nothing in landfills. And
Yeah,
so
and
here
this
we
is
are.
way before all this hype about having, something sustainable. So what is Stonz? Tell us, what is Stonz?
What is Stonz? Stonz, when people think about Stonz and the way I think about Stonz as a brand, or if it was walking around, it would be somebody who cared a lot about quality, doing what it says it's going to do, and being that friend or person that you rely on. Like you just know when you think about going outdoors for a walk, we're going to be there and try to outfit you as best as we can to prolong. We all know what it's like getting a baby ready. I mean, it takes
Mm-hmm.
an hour to get ready to go outside and be 45 minutes. And then somebody's either blown through their diaper, they have poop up their back, or there's someone screaming. And so I just wanted to create an experience where you could do it so quickly. Like our gloves, I thought, why not create a glove? I'm just trying to stick my child's thumb in a hole that they don't even want to be in. And all they
Yeah.
do is scoop things anyway. So I, I just drew it on my table at home. This whole almost like an oven mitt that just goes up and over quickly with two snaps that just boom, boom, they cinch up. So
Wow.
my whole thing is it has to be super easy, make sense. Like I want them smart. Everything
Mm-hmm.
that we do, I really envisioned as being smart.
Yeah.
So, my mission is making outside easy because it
Oh, cool.
doesn't, that's kind of the mission because people would tell me, oh, I don't, can we just go to the mall instead? It just seems like a lot of work, to get your kid ready and be outside. And of course, being in Vancouver, it can rain, it can be
Oh, yeah.
sunny, it can, things change. So, I just want it smart, quick and easy, high quality, and you're outdoors more than you're having to prepare.
Yeah. So let's bring it back because in the pre-show we had a conversation, Lisa and I, so there's mixed emotions about the term mompreneur. So that kind of I really want to listen to that. So tell us what feelings do you have, and be honest with us. What's the feeling that you have associated? And of course, Lisa's opinions are Lisa's opinions. So if anybody wants to judge her, then you start looking in the mirror. So if you want to leave a comment about something like that you don't like, then go on a different show. But
Yeah, because I don't. Yeah.
Lisa's entitled to her opinion. And so, what's your opinion about mompreneur? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's funny when I began in the business world. Like I just wanted to be known as a business person
Mm-hmm.
and not a statistic. Oh, wow, we've got a female in the workplace. Now we've got a female on management, or we've got a female. So for me, it's just you happen to be a mom who needs to solve something to make their life better, and then it spreads to others. Perfect. So the mompreneur thing, to me, it didn't really tell me that I was going to be in this longer than when I was sort of a mom. And mom, I think about it. You're a mom forever, of course, but I think about mom as like it's a period of life. If you're a mompreneur, a lot of hobby businesses get started, right? So for me, mompreneur, I wanted to be just really good at business, be responsible, but never give up my values.
Mm-hmm.
My values of caring about the environment and my values of doing what I said I would do. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's just like good business, common sense business. It's doing the right thing. So it had, mompreneur. I happen to be a mom for sure, for sure. It's just that it got put into a different category, and I wanted to just be. If I wasn't good enough to be in business, I wouldn't be in business any longer. I shouldn't
Yeah.
get given anything. I just feel I want to live and die by what I. Just my morals.
It's not fair to put that stigma on people to say, oh, you're a mompreneur. What stigma is that? Are you an entrepreneur? You're not, right? Are you a business owner or you're not? There's either two categories. You're a mom or a dad when you're a parent. There's no other choices. So, I mean, there's heaps of mothers who work. Do you call them the mom workers? Like, no, like it's not fair, because I think it comes from the associated, and I want to bring it back to balance, the risk associated with starting a business. How can you take that risk? You're a mom. Do you not have your kids, or is your husband or partner providing for you, and that's why you're doing it on the corner of the table? It's just the stigma associated with it is just absolutely awful, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know why, if you're trying to carve out something different for yourself because you needed, say, more flexibility. And we have to remember 15, 17 years ago, it was a lot different than it is
Oh,
now.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you can just do it, but then you had to actually carve out something different for yourself.
Mhm.
And especially given the role I had and what I was doing. I mean, trading, you have to be immersed in the market. If you lost touch, even with being off for a few days, you couldn't come in and jump right back to where you were.
Mhm.
So I needed to recreate a role for myself. And in doing that, to me, mompreneur, I didn't know why it was different than an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it was because you assume that now that you're a mom, you're going to still not have a focus of business.
Mhm.
The focus is really on mom, that you happen to be also running a side business, which I guess, sure, in some cases that was true. I definitely forewent opportunities to grow because I put my kids first. And that was another message I would love to help send people, that when they would see me, I looked totally together. If I go to a story, I can think about when I first wanted to take the leap of doing my own business. I went to a conference, and it was like a senior leader at a big company like TELUS or something. And a woman stood up there and she said, I run this company. I think she's a VP at the time. I have 3 children. I do yoga. I have date nights with my husband. And I work this full-time job, and I run the board, or I'm on the board. I thought, there is no freaking way that you do all this. I'm like, I don't even sleep more than 5 hours a night, because I've never really needed a lot of sleep. And that I couldn't even, something has to give.
Mhm.
And I just thought that is really unfair to put that out there.
Yeah.
Because now all women think, what am I doing wrong? What
Yeah.
am I doing wrong? Why, my husband says he hasn't seen me, or my partner hasn't seen me for, 2 weeks, and we've been in the
Yeah.
basement in the evening. The kids go to bed, you disappear because that's your quiet time. You have to get stuff done. And I really, really want to give people permission to not have guilt, to, even saying live in the moment, like even defining what that means.
Mhm.
Does it just mean that every minute you need to be enjoying what you're doing? Maybe. But just trying to figure out the balance piece. I just want to remove the myth. However, we can do that. Like, balance is balance. Are you out of balance because only 2 of your 3 buckets, family, personal, business, like maybe you can only fill 2 of your buckets
Yeah.
at a time, and just accept that? Or is it that people call you a workaholic, but the truth is you just love it so much, you're not out of balance for you,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
And
If people
and
say, oh gosh, Lisa, you work too much. Really? Or am I just working on what seems like an endless game, puzzle, work project? I really love it.
it's hard for people who have never, and now I don't want to put the word entrepreneur is in my opinion, in this new age, too loosely used. It is, people call themselves CEOs because they have a side hustle, right?
Mm.
And everybody wants to be called an entrepreneur. And I have this entrepreneurial spirit. And it's like, hold on a second. Who do you work for? Like, okay, everybody's got a client, everybody's got a boss. Are you ready? And the only difference is that the entrepreneur puts self risk in the middle of this. They take their funds or somebody else's funds, and there's a lot more risk associating. And that term comes French from entreprendre, to start, right?
Right.
And we like to start things, and entrepreneurs like to start things. They don't like to finish things. So you need entrepreneurs as much as you need employees. You know that. So they
Oh
like to,
yeah,
and you're part of EO. Oh, shiny thing. Oh, shiny
yeah,
thing. Oh, and you
completely.
see.
Well, I have an idea. I know. I now have an Excel spreadsheet that everyone's kindly told me to put my ideas in, and we can talk about them at the end of the quarter. Perfect.
So with that being said, the stigma of associating risk, when when I went full entrepreneur, my wife, who is a paralegal and was in doing contracts, so she did contracts for big corporations. She decided to put her career aside to raise our children, and that was
Yeah.
a family decision.
Yeah.
Like I never imposed that. That's the choices. That's the choice that she made. She's like, I want to be fully invested in raising our children until I want to get back into whatever I want to do. Right. And she's been stigmatized for being a stay-at-home mom that takes care of all of us so that when my job is done, that we have uber quality time. It's not the amount of time, and so I think of all the women who do work, who are out of balance, who don't spend time with their kids and their dad and their double income families and all that good stuff. Well, we don't make as much money as other people, right? Yet the quality time that we have is what we have. And there's no purpose. There's just no, oh, what's your purpose in life? Just how about just being a good parent? Is that not a good person? How about just being a good person? Is that not a good purpose? And so this stigma of you have to have purpose in what you're doing. You have to have purpose. Like you're solving a problem that has real life results. Like you said, I don't want anything to go in landfill. Well, that's a goddamn purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this balance thing, I agree with you 100%. And on the other side, I know a lot of women in I'll say the 15-year generation who were just called bitches because they had lost all their feminine side to, they're just trying to be in a man's world, be ruthless.
Yeah.
And that didn't fit well with it. And they were just got stigmatized in being a bitch. But you had a story too, that at the table, you're saying one time that you're the only person that was still married, or?
Oh, no, it was I had the good fortune of being nominated in the Royal Bank Entrepreneur of the Year, the female
Whoop, whoop.
women's side. Yeah, and so I was one of the finalists, and I went to Toronto, and they had this beautiful table set up, and that you were put with,
Yeah.
I think 6 or 7 other women in, I think it was the same category. And I was so interested in a lot of these women. I was definitely the youngest business there.
Mhm.
So most everyone had been in business a minimum of 10, 15 years. And the winner, I think, was 31 years
Oh,
in her
wow.
business. But I just, in asking questions of every single person, I looked around the table, and I went there. I took my husband at the time when we were sitting there. There was not one person at my table who was still married. And everyone was either there with a brother or a friend or a new something. And I just found that very interesting because they all had stories. One was still, she still worked with her husband. They actually started the business together and had a good relationship, but there was just not that other part of the relationship. And it was amazing, like, firstly, how open people were, because everyone knows, like,
Mhm.
we had a short period of time and they just were real. And
Mhm.
it was kind of no one, bullshitting each other about what this was. Like, this was freaking hard. It was hard to get here. And small business or medium business in itself is just, all you're doing is navigating issues and challenges and problems and obstacles, and hopefully celebrating along the way. But we all know how difficult it is. So we
Mhm.
weren't kidding ourselves about that. But marriage was another one, right? But at times their bucket was not filled in that area, and it did not last. And they were just very open with me, just saying, yeah, it wasn't our time anymore. And that sort of I looked around because I had only been in business, I think at that time, was 6 or 7 years. I thought, wow, is this what we're sort of destined to go through?
Mhm.
Um, but
So what kind
it's,
of advice, so I'm assuming there's some young female entrepreneurs, and even guys that say, well, let's focus on women for now. That's saying, well, I'd like to have babies.
yeah,
I'd like to be a mom. That I'd also like to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to put my career aside to be a mom.
yeah.
Did you have that? Did you have that thought process? And if you did, can you share? And if you don't, then what kind of advice do you have to provide?
It's interesting. operate very highly intuitively. So it sounds like I think a lot, I take in a lot of information around me, but I don't actually, like, I won't go do a lot of research and things. Like I now have people that do, whether it be competitive analysis or actual data and all that, which is awesome. But for me, the reason why I even got started is I thought, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of fill in the blank around, right?
Yeah.
And then I try them and it doesn't work. So I go and I make it. But when talking about how you know when to start something, was that what you were meaning? Or do you
Well,
just mean?
so before you had babies, okay, and did you ever consider being an entrepreneur before you had babies?
I didn't know what it was called because in my family, very conservative parents, get a job at a big company, stay there for
Mm-hmm.
35 years. That would be their goal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Even right out of high school, I was like, you know what? I can't even go to university yet because I don't even know who I am. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't go until later on. And then I only went in the evenings and I did my whole degree
Shame,
program. Oh,
shame.
exactly. Because I thought, I don't even know what I am. And I did not want to go and do an art history degree or something because everyone
Yeah,
else was, or economics. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it wasn't me.
yeah.
So, but when I look back, I would say, Martin, that I had the typical lemonade stands. I even did disco lessons for my friends. I had no
No
business doing
way.
that, but I had these duotangs on every child, and I would come and, oh yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
collected a dime or a nickel or something from every Tuesday, Thursday, and my girlfriend's mom would teach me whatever she learned on Monday. It was so fun.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
yeah, I did so many things like that. I would sell garage sale items all the time, and my friends would join me for like the first hour, and then they'd get really bored. Well, I would be doing it all day, and so in that, I didn't realize what it was, but I was that. Um, I was an entrepreneur, and never understood why I couldn't just, even in the corporate world, I worked for some bigger companies. I would be invited to some bigger meeting than what my title would put me in, and I would say, "Oh, I've got some input," and I would get completely pushed aside and said, like, you were invited here just to sit here, not to say anything. And so something inside me just said, I can't do this. I
Mm,
actually can't do this. And I had some like good ideas to contribute, but of course they were saying it wasn't my time to contribute anything. And I just wasn't a fit. And then I was hired for one last big company. I remember it was BC Hydro, and you get a full psychological assessment. And then the lady sits you down and talks about you as an individual, where you might best fit.
mhm.
And I remember I was only 20, I don't know, was I 24 or something? And she told me that, oh, I'm surprised you even work here. I said, what do you mean? I just got this new job. And she said, oh, you're not what I would call like an ideal fit here in the corporate world. And that was my first time where I thought, oh,
What?
she doesn't know what, even though she was like 70 and very well, I'm sure, versed and had earned her
Yeah,
degrees. But it was so funny that at the time I almost went through a denial, was, well, I'm going to prove her wrong. And,
yeah.
and sure enough, I did not fit where I was placed at all, and ended up in an entrepreneurial place because I put up my hand and I chased down a trading opportunity with their
Mhm,
trading, their power trading arm,
mhm.
because I just fit better there. And then I could have my entrepreneurial spirit filled for 11 years. I could go and I created through transmission lines and things. I created these trading. I didn't create them, but I worked within them and traded energy, moved them back and forth. I found an entrepreneurial outlet
Yeah.
wherever I went there, and I was allowed to because my managers and bosses saw that I could do that, which was
I
wonderful.
you just nailed it. I think a lot of people feel stifled in not being able to create. And that's what
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is, to undertake, right? And that's the translation, is just to undertake. So you have an idea, you want to fill a void. Well, where are the gaps, right? So
Yeah.
in the ninth, and let's not in any way, shape, or form belittle the people that like jobs, in no way, shape, or form, because
Oh, it's very important. Yeah.
without worker bees, without people who grind day in, day out in a specific speciality or a specific event, and they thrive and they become experts at that, we rely on those people to be sure that we have elimination and automation. So I just, because
and
we talk
efficiency
and efficiency.
oh,
Exactly.
100%. And I'm more speaking to you, just being true to yourself. I wanted to be that
Absolutely.
person.
Oh,
I
no,
wanted
no.
to fit into that role. And I just think, and that's what I brought to the table with my kids, is I thought, I'm going to really pay attention to who you are and to watch what you move towards. And I had, like a lot of other people, you have two kids that are very different. One person takes a lot more comfort in being super organized. The other one's very comfortable in winging things, or
Mhm.
whatever that is, like just watching for little things. But I don't think, Martin, I answered the question. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's
You asked me
okay.
about a mom, about being a mom. Did I ever think? I did not actually even think of it. I never had this, like, I'm going to be a mom. That's what I never really thought about it. And I operated my entire life, and still do, by when I'm enjoying something, I remain at it. And if I want to change, I will seek it out. I go through this little process of figuring out, like, why do I want this change? I wonder what that is, that
Yeah.
feeling. But as soon as I get curious about something, I ask myself a ton of questions. And then I knew, like, even in power, when I left my job in power trading, I just knew it was time. But I had to go through a lot of questions, because I really loved my job. I loved the people. I loved the intellect. I loved the conversations. I loved how funny it was being there. I miss all that. I still do. But it was time. And you just have to figure out when that is time. And I knew it was time to become a parent, although I probably held off a little bit because of how much I was loving my job.
Mhm.
And there were, I worked with a few women later that I don't think very many of them had kids, because you're very much vested in your job. It's just more than a full time, So it was a decision that I made, but I knew when I made it, and everything works out, by the way. Sometimes you decide you're going to do something, it doesn't work
Mhm.
out. And I know people that wanted children that didn't, and couldn't. But we did and could. And once we did, I thought, this has to be my priority. Like,
Mhm.
it was more than, great, I've done it. And, I'll just, but I knew that I also had a creativity I needed to fulfill. So I had to
Mhm.
figure that out. I had to figure out, like, how I had both a child, gave them my energy. And by the way, like you said, quantity versus quality time. I knew that just being around them and being tired and resentful and
Oh,
frustrated and
yeah.
like, that doesn't make a good, like, sometimes it's really good for them to have a routine outside of you, so I was open to that.
Mhm.
I was very open to, it didn't mean me being at home full time. What it meant was that I was there when they needed me. And if I wasn't able to be, that they had someone that was, equally vested in their best interest. And that worked out really, really well.
Yeah, there's you know, before I go on a second tangent here, so you did ask yourself in some way, shape, or form, saying, okay, well, maybe not now. I'm not ready, because you said you postponed a little bit while you had a
Yeah.
job because you loved it to become a
Yeah.
parent. My wife Tracy, we watched it's so similar, the Pink on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, um and she says exactly that. She's like, a lot of artists stop their career to be a mom, or stop themselves from being a mom to have their career. And she said, for us men, we're providers, we're hunters, we're seekers, we're gatherers. There's nothing wrong for us. It is ingrained in our DNA. We can step away from the family because we feel the need to provide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we go, okay, yeah, a mom to step away from her children, to not think about them 24 hours a day, is very unlikely. Although you do actions for it, and you need to have your creative outlet and all that stuff, you still always, you're much more attached, because I mean, they were inside your body, right? So
Yeah.
that
There's something
creates
that's innate there usually,
exactly that
from
us men
most people.
cannot understand and fathom, and biology has a set like that. So it's impressive to me how, regardless of the area, it is just so connected. There's a biological component of being able to be creative, because if you lose yourself as an individual, regardless of male or female, then if you don't think about who you are, then everybody behind you becomes a recipient of that shitty attitude, right? Like
Yeah.
you mentioned.
Well, you know what? It's weird. I remember sitting up one night and my child couldn't sleep. He was about 2 months old. And I remember looking it was like an Oprah episode or something. And it had a story of Maya Angelou. And she said, I was always like rushing my kids around and why is your scarf never done up? Why is your lunch packed? Why is your bag open? Why'd you lose a shoe? Oh. And then one time she just stopped and said, does this really all matter? It actually, like, your kid's not going to freeze to death. And I so related to that because that tends to be more my person. I just don't worry about the small things. Like I get more amped up about the bigger, but I did listen to what she had to say and had the good fortune of that was always in the back of my mind. Like, all you need to do is, she said, when your kids walk in the room or when you first see them, your eyes light up. Or are you looking at them and going, oh, why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? Why are your shoes undone? Because they just have this association, right? And that, to me, that was sort of my moment to go, oh my gosh, like that is totally my mantra. That's going to be, my eyes are going to light up no matter how much I'm worried that my shipment didn't come in, or I can't make this sale today, or I said I was going to make it to the retail store and I didn't, like whatever it is. Actually, just your eyes light up because tomorrow is tomorrow. And the other thing that she said is, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you see me? And do I matter? And that is my second mantra that I live by, because even with my team today, that's all that matters to them. They will leave if they don't feel they matter. I left when I felt.
Can you say that again? Because I think this is a priceless lesson for everybody. So can you please repeat slowly what your mantra is about that?
So for parenting early on, it was when you and your child connect in a room, your eyes light up.
First one.
Yeah.
And then the second one.
And then I always remembered that because that's all that matters. And then the second piece with people in general is, do you hear me? Do you see me? And do I matter?
Wow. And that
because
is...
I think no matter who you're conversing with, they're human. You may not agree with them, but I know that whenever I think about any feelings I've had that were negative, it's at the end of the day, it was because in my mind, I felt I didn't matter.
I'm writing this down because I
did steal it from Maya Angelou, just saying, but
it doesn't matter.
If I just have to live by these little things, and then lastly, we'll get to the 4 stages of parenting. I remember, but that's another, yeah.
But that twinkle in your eye, that is the same thing about work as well. Because a lot of people say, oh, you guys work so much. Yeah, we love what we do. Like when I talk about saving businesses, when I talk about exploding growth, right? So people hire us when they've got a business and they're exploding growth, and they say, look, and I've got a great idea. All these people are around me. I don't know what to do. The opportunity to help another leader, CEO, entrepreneur be able to fulfill. And for us, it's about, if we help people be good people, then it's going to reverberate through the business and through the world. And I know that sounds really corny and cheesy, but you have to have some type of just cause so that you feel enlightened. Like you said, you don't want anything in the landfill. You want something that's easy and snap. Like, I've been a parent and I lived on the East Coast. Yeah. I know what it is to put a snowsuit on a kid. It fucking sucks. Dad, I gotta go.
Too many buttons.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And it's so funny you say that, Martin, because anytime we had a guy, I can almost say like 100%, they come at our booth at trade shows and they'd see this concept of this booty, or then this mitt that you just pull 2 tabs, and they're like, this is so cool, because it allows them to be part of the whole process, but it's not, it's just not, it just works. It's not complicated. It just works. And it's simple. My whole thing is keep it simple, because you got a lot of other things going on in your day. Keep it simple.
I asked my oldest daughter if I scarred her, because I was a young dad. So I was a dad when I was 23 years old, and I was still in the Army back then. And I put my gas mask when there was a breast milk poop. It was the very first breast milk poop I've ever smelled in my life. Lord, thunder and Jesus.
Oh
I
yeah.
can still gag. I'm almost 50 years old now. So I put my gas mask on to change this poor little girl, and poop in all the private parts. I had poop underneath my fingernails. I was like, damn, anything that can help
Yeah.
parenting, no matter how old or how young
Yeah.
you start, I'm with you. And that twinkle in your eye has to be there for your business as well, or for your job, or for
For
anything.
sure.
You
Yeah.
know, what motivates you to be good. So this kind of, like, we went far with this one, but the question is innate. It will happen, and how you dealt with it, of career or mom. And it doesn't have to be or, it has to be and
Yeah.
by and you have to find the timing by asking yourselves, are you ready? Is this the right time? By asking, and what feels right, because what your brain tells you and what your heart tells you might be two different things, right?
Right. And also what your physical body tells you. So
Oh,
being
true.
very
Yeah.
open about, like, I just decided, oh, now's my time. I'm finished my MBA. I've done my career. Now's the time. And, after going through several miscarriages, I was like, wow, okay. So either I'm being sent a message that I need to really appreciate that everything isn't just going to fall to plan, or maybe this wasn't meant to be like, I had so many other questions. And so just, I don't want to say like making it trivial, but just saying roll with it. But I really had to be accepting
Mm,
of, and I kept thinking, well, I'm just really lucky that I really love my work. That if
hmm
this doesn't work, that I at least have so many other, like, I just always wanted to have a contingency plan.
hmm
And again, it's because I was always doing something I really enjoyed. So it was, but I did want the and so, lucky for us, we just kept at it, and it worked eventually. But just having that acceptance that some things don't work out as you had planned or at all. But the resilience I had was such that I just knew there was a solution. Now, once we did have a child and I still wanted to carry on, I did have a whole bunch of guilt over, why is this not enough for me? Why is
hmm
it not enough that I have a child? Why do I have to start something? I just couldn't be this 1 year where you just think, oh, great, I just get to like watch them, pick up like, I loved all that, but I still had this creative energy inside of me. And for me, I was so fortunate to have a partner who supported me so much. Like, Mark was so crucial in, what do you need? Like, we would
hmm
both, every second day, if we had daycare, um, we paid for a full-time spot. We didn't use it full-time, but on the days that I really needed it, I could. And he could have easily said, look, you're not working and we can't
hmm
do this. But he knew that it was a short-term sacrifice for a long-term result. And it's been constant like that for the last 15 years. It was such a good partnership in that. And I feel very, very lucky. Because I know others that weren't so lucky. Like, eventually
hmm
the spouse would say, are you going to call this? Like, this isn't clearly working, or this has been a long time that you said next year this is going to be the big year, next year's,
Yeah.
and he just so believed in what I was doing. And I can never repay that. It's just because there are days when you really need that, right? And that's what I'm saying, when you're out of balance,
Oh.
you're all on your own, you're great, everything's good, and then the next day not good, and you need someone to sort of lift you up and say, you know what, this reason why you've done this is this. You've done a great job raising the kids. You weren't always present for the business, and we made this sacrifice together, and that's why X equals this.
There
So
is no handbook or
no,
SOPs for parenting or starting a business. There's a whole bunch of
no,
good
or
books out
life
there.
really. Life just is going to be what it is, and yeah,
Treat people the way you want to be treated, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, it, for me, I mean, one of the great partnership examples that I have is, I don't have an official education. I don't have an MBA. And for a longest time, all of my peers would all have MBAs. They say, oh, I went in the army at a very young age. So I was 18 years old and
wow,
joined, and I took university after the fact. And I said, I want to learn this because I've always been curious, as you
yep,
can see from the silly questions that I ask and the thousand
oh,
questions.
great,
And so for the longest time, I'm like, God damn it. Like, I don't have this piece of paper. I want to do my MBA. I want to do my MBA, blah, 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 blah. And then one day, Tracy, she said, and my wife is just absolutely beautifully blunt. She's like, what the hell you want that for?
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
what are they going to teach you? I said, nothing. I said, I know pretty much. Well, she said, nothing. You know, you can probably teach most of the classes that they have out there. Yes, but I don't have the piece of paper. She says, okay, so give me $90,000. And she says, I will print you a piece of paper that says you have your MBA. How will that increase your sales? I'm like, not really. So she says, can we be done with it? And I was like,
yeah.
As a good soldier,
judgment, right? It's judgment of yourself, and it's judgment that you're surrounding.
Exactly. Because I was never good enough. Like, I saw everybody else who went to university, had these great university stories. Oh, I did this and did this. I did this. And then she's like, okay, Martin, who has lived and worked on 6 different continents out of your friends? I'm like, nobody. Who's jumped out of airplanes and shot guns and thrown grenades? Just me, I guess. So, it's all a matter of self.
It's your own path. It's your
correct,
own path.
right? And to accept that is a good way. And I think that's, timing is, like you said, right? A lot of people says, oh, entrepreneur, work hard, work hard, work hard. It's not about working hard. It's about timing. It's about being consistent in your approach so that when the opportunity shows up, you're ready for it. And that's what a lot of young entrepreneurs forget, because there's a lot of, work hard, hard work pays off and all this bullshit. If you're spinning your wheels and you're chasing your tail, you can run as fast as you can. You're never going to get anywhere. Yeah. And I think that you provided 2 very good reference points, which is, one, ask yourself 1,000 questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you? Number 2 is, how does it feel? Right? Because you went back to work twice, not once, but twice. So a lot of people, I'm an entrepreneur. I'll never be, I don't like having a boss, and I don't like being told what to do. Well, guess what? When you're an entrepreneur, you're a CEO, everybody tells you what to do.
Oh, you're working, you're peer. Like I, the way I look at it, I'm really working for my team.
Yeah, exactly.
If they need me, I am there.
Exactly.
That's who my bosses are now. Yeah.
So two huge lessons in this episode that we're talking about. One, ask yourself 1,000 questions. Is the timing right? There's no such thing as a mompreneur. You're a mother, you're an entrepreneur. You wear 1,000 different hats. You're a wife, you're a spouse, you're a sister, you're a daughter.
I'm a sports fan, like whatever, yeah, totally. It's a huge part of my life too, right? Like, there's just so many different facets to people. I'm just not a big labeler.
Agreed.
Because I never wanted to be put in a box. And I always felt like when, people are so anxious to do that. But the whole thing is, and this is what I want to actually propose at our next strategy session, is one of our values needs to be changed to constant learning. Because I think that is when I look at the successful people within our team, it's because they've constantly sought to be better, just like Stonz is doing. Stonz is like ever evolving. This year is going to be a huge launch for us of all new products. And it's constant. We have to constantly ask ourselves, just, are we doing the very best we can? And why people think it's odd that I still really want feedback on our products. If there's something that somebody asks, like, why would I have an ego about it when I'm no longer using them because I don't have little children. So now it's important I ask for that feedback. So even as a leader, as a friend, as a partner, I don't know, it's just that, and not being afraid of it, because I think insecurity will kill you. And I know when we've had people come on board, when things have not worked, it's 100% because they're insecure. Now they're making decisions that serve them. They don't serve the company. And you're just asking for that to perpetuate itself. And that's what one of my big lessons with my company, and when things got a little off track, it was that insecurity will cause a lot of problem.
Knowledge dispels fear. That's an SAS, a special air service in the UK. I mean, Tim Ferriss does a fear setting session. Like, what are you afraid of, right? And so for our company, our core values are also our brand promises, meaning that ignite curiosity, be curious. Like, I hate when people say, hey, how you doing? Well, are you asking or are you just, because if you want to say hi, it's okay to say hi.
Yeah.
But if you're going to ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. Or don't ask a question and then
or
walk
don't ask a
away
question and
because you make me feel, again, unimportant, right? It was just insincere, and authenticity for me is huge. Like because everyone has different ways of being in day-to-day life, and just come as you are, like or maybe talk about it, or like you say, share how you're feeling, and maybe not just your feeling, but tell us why it's significant, because
Yeah.
that's the real meaning, right? And I learned that through EO and doing so much work within the forum. It's been great because you actually talk about like a headline, how you're feeling about it, and the significance of it. The significance is really the meaning.
Oh, absolutely. One word
Because
openings. Yeah.
you can say, oh yeah, like I'm not good today. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. What's it? Define? Yeah. There's context attached to everything, right? I always, when we do behavioral work for leadership, if I go, hey, how y'all doing? And I put an accent on how you think, then you put all these biases. I like country music. I like barbecue. I'm from the South of the US with the drawl. That puts a whole bunch of, if I say bonjour, comment allez-vous? Then I like baguettes and smoke and have a mustache, right? So, those are the biases that we associate with it. No, and so the ignite that curiosity is key to being authentic. Crystallize your thinking for us as well, is to say, okay, well, where am I going with all of this, right? And so you've got a whole bunch of questions, what the direction, and then concentrate your action is. So when you're invested, make sure your head is where your feet are. So when I'm talking to Lisa, I'm talking to Lisa. I'm not saying, oh, hold on a second. Same thing with people on Zoom where, you see their eyes going away and you go, okay, well, you're looking at something popped up. That's great. But if I go, for those people who are listening, I'm kind of pretending like my eyes are going, I'm reaching out for my keyboard, right? Sometimes it's okay, but, be in the present moment. So, so let's talk about learning. I often say leaders are learners, not necessarily readers. I'm dyslexic. So for me, reading is very difficult.
Yeah.
So I appreciate books, love books. Sometimes reading can be very onerous and difficult for me.
Audible. That's why audiobooks are great, right? It's perfect.
So what are you learning now? So two last questions. One is, what's the one piece of reference material that has changed who you are or can define who you are? That's one book, one podcast, one session. What is it that defines who you are?
That's tough. Because just by my sheer nature of, I take in a lot. Like I prefer, because I actually think if you were to ask me who's my, biggest mentor or somebody I look up to or anything, I actually couldn't give you one person, because I don't believe any one person or any one entity could come in here and make this perfectly great, because there's so many pieces to everything. Everybody's got something, like a golden nugget, right? That's a tough one.
So for me, it was 7 Habits was one that,
Covey
first things first was for me, that was life-changing for me, because I learned to prioritize, because I would put everything at the same level. So that was for me defines, because every time who asks me, I said, they'll always say, oh, Martin always says, what's the risk? What's the priority? What's the risk? What's the priority? Yeah. So they know that comes out of my mouth, and singularity of purpose. So those are things that are associated with Martin. So
I guess the one book that impacted me a lot and gave me, I have to put everything in categories so it makes sense to me, almost like visual. And for me, the E-Myth did that, because I could tell the manager, the technical person, and the entrepreneur, it very clearly then it gave me the ability to be okay with being the entrepreneur and not having, I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't manage as well as I wanted, or couldn't stick to just purely technical things for a long, long, long period of time. So it just gave me the permission to step away and be able to be in my zone of genius, which everyone has one. It's finding it, and when you find it in your life. And once I got clarity around that, I think I read that book even before I took the full leap.
Oh, gotcha.
I really, it's such a great book to read.
It is. There's so many people who refer back to it. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And
That would be.
what are you learning now? What's the one thing that you want to improve on? Because I mean, we're looking at continuous improvement all the time, like
Mhm.
you said. What's the one thing you go, this is something that I want to work on this year?
Yeah, that's actually, it's really clear to me now because I'm in the middle of this wonderful program called Soulful Leadership, and it's with the co-founder of Y Yoga, and she's taking us through this almost personal mission. Because I know the mission of the business, super clear on that, but I never really thought about what my mission is.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come to understand is seeing something ignite in somebody and helping them be the best that they can, like seeing opportunity for them and helping them get there. And so I'm in the middle right now of a few different books. One is the Patagonia book, Let Your People Go Surfing, but also the Coaching Habit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is amazing. That book is so good and describes how, never ask more than one question, for example, because it gives you the impression that you're just firing questions for the sake of it, which you are very good at. Just one question, focus on it, because then the person feels very important. Even just little things. So me coaching people, I would say, and my team and being that leader they need, because now they're technically, I would say, thank goodness, better than me in lots of different areas of the business, everything from design to operations to logistics, and which is amazing. So they've taken that, they're running with it, they're learning. Now I get to be able to see what sparks them and help them get to be get them to exactly where they want to be. And
It's
that I find hugely rewarding. So that's my mission, I would say. My
perfect.
mission in life. Yeah.
A lot. People think that humans in general are selfish. And sometimes when I'm driving, I'm the smartest people on the road. Right. And everybody else is stupid.
Yep.
I'm just the smartest person there. And people tend to think it. I've had the opportunity to ask this question to many different people who have a lot of influence. And I would say that everybody shares in that same kind of pathway of collaboration. How can I help? How can I help? And I'm hoping that through COVID, through all of this, if there's one thing that humanity has learned, is to be more tolerant and helpful to others, to saying, how can I help? And that, because one day you're going to be asking for help. And that's something that we practice at Urgio, is at the end of the daily huddles, I always ask, what do you need help with? And when they don't say anything, they know that I say, oh, really? Are you doing this good with this? Well, no. So then ask for help, because
Yeah.
Dean's really good at this.
For creating
Okay?
the environment, right, that's safe to both ask for help and be
Correct.
okay that you may not be as good. So that is my job. I have to have that safe environment.
Yeah.
And I look at that as being my role now, not really directing everybody to do what they're doing. They're able to now do that. My whole thing is creating that environment that's
Absolutely.
safe. Because if they can't, who's going to stand up and say they don't know something when they know a manager is looking for them and waiting for them to say something like that and pounce on it? That you can't, like, we need something very different than that.
Oh, absolutely. I always say for me, one of the movies that Master and Commander is a movie that has always drawn me, is that to leadership, because direction is key. The people who feel safe in a box need direction. They need a leader who says, there we go, ladies and gentlemen, that's the direction we're going. That feels safe, because people not knowing where they're going, right? The second thing is support. What tools do you need to get your job? Because most people need that job description to feel safe, right?
Yeah.
They feel, okay, so Lisa through Stonz is paying my salary, and my salary permits me to do the stuff that I need to do. So I'm aiming to be prosperous, and I want to put my kids through this, and I want to have them go to soccer, and I want them to do this. So ensuring that the company has clear direction, that they're provided the tools, and that the CEO leader has their ear. And and this is where I think, do you hear me? Do you see me? Do I matter? Is that component of open lines of communication. I was like, that is magical, Lisa. That is, I know you stole that from somebody, but I couldn't care less. You're the one that gave it to me. So I mean, that comes full circle about, I think when you're having a conversation, to yourself about balance and about being a mompreneur and all these stigmas is ask yourself, do I see myself? Do I hear myself? And do I matter? Now that's a self-conversation that could go on for, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never thought about it ever applying to me. Just more, I'm clear with other people that if I'm not making you feel like you matter, please tell me. That's the last piece of that, right? Putting the onus on the person to say, please clear it up with me if I don't, because this is my intention. And if it's not happening for you, please let me know. That's the only thing I ask really of them. So.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I struggle with my partnership is sometimes I get too involved, and I need to work on to making Tracy feel special. We've been together for 18 years now.
Yeah.
And that applies not just to Tracy, to my kids, to the people that work with me. And yeah, so wow. Deep. We went deep on this one. This is amazing, Lisa. Thank you so very much for being on the show. Did we have fun?
Yes, it was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for, I feel very enlightened today. So thank you.
Fabulous. And all I can see for those people who are listening and not watching, there's these little, over her right shoulder, there's these little blue and pink booties that just look absolutely cozy. Like I want to put them in my house. They're so cozy.
I know. That's why I love the fall every year. Spring and summer is fine, but I love the fall. Yeah.
I flip-flops on kids doesn't work. We've tried. My daughter was born in the South Pacific. It's just that barefoot's best for babies. Anyways, Lisa, thank you very much for being on the show. It was a pleasure. Can anybody get a hold of you? I'm assuming you're on LinkedIn and all that good stuff.
Yes, I am. LinkedIn. Yeah. If you want to email, you can get a hold of me through the Stonz website.
Okay.
And yeah. Love to chat with anybody that's interested.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And so with that said, my name is Martin Hunter. I'm the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Thank you very much. And this time I'm not forgetting, please like, subscribe, and do whatever the social media team tells me to do. So anyways, with that said, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.